I do see the Nvidia popping up strongly. And like I said, they had a whole bunch of calls come in yesterday. This had a gorgeous rollover. Everything stopped right here on 822. That's your bearish engulfing stabilization above. All right, so above 106.48. And I said next would be this 111. So we got that. And then on the intraday, right here, 110. Let me tell you, some of the calls that were coming in yesterday were way up here to the 118. And I would not be surprised if with the right kind of backdrop, we could come all the way back up to this 118. So if you are chasing this Nvidia from 106.48, this would only be a chase, by the way. If you are chasing from this 106.48, we're already at 111, little digestion here. Given the big amount of calls that I saw come in yesterday, all right, 10-4 is the strike that they're going for on these Nvidias. For those who are playing, for whatever reason, October 4th. Lots of calls came in for 108 last night, and then about 35 million came in for this 118. Okay, so Nvidia is the strong one. Nvidia, we know has call buying. It's very much the very first thing I said. I see calls yesterday now following through, but the rest of the market's a mess. This is the market we have today. I really, this is not a bullish backdrop in my humble opinion. This is what we have today. Other than the solars, which were debate infused, we have just Nvidia. So we've got look at this across the board: financials, software, semis are little bounce. That's the only game in town right now. Oracle continuation, but defensives, energy, real estate, utes, industrials, all of them are getting hit, or I should say soggy. So Nvidia is saving cues today. So here's the sell-off, 9:45, right into 10:45. What happened at 11? Jensen, 11. And this puppy went right up. 55% of this move is credited to Nvidia. No joke. 55%. So Nvidia had already, first and foremost, had a, let's go to the daily, because that's important, and the weekly. Here's your 106.47 overshoot to the 50 week, and then it got back up. And I said, if we can get above, this is a bullish harami, if we can get and stay above 106.48, we can move into 111 and then 116 and then 122 in time. So ironically, this was already set up for a move into 116.23. Yesterday, I saw and talked about the calls from Tuesday at the close, and then again, Wednesday morning, they were hammering with calls, specifically big positioning, which I really like to see, not just the zero DTE chasers or the weekly chasers. I saw the October 4th, I saw the Januaries, they were getting really busy. So this is what happened. We literally had a nice little gap up to start the day. We did some back and fill. And then what happens at 11 o'clock? I'm going to show you because I think this is just ironic. So what happened? It came all the way back down. And then here's 11 o'clock. Remember, I was doing my intermarket review at 10:45, 11 o'clock, close the trading room. Jensen goes on TV on CNBC, and the rest is history. So Nvidia moved sharply higher into that 116.53. Pre-market, we did hit this 118, which was my price target. It's still my price target, even if we're getting, tapped down a little bit pre-market. I still think we're going to absolutely go hit that. And the very fact that we get above this 118.31 means we're going to push into 121, 122. So this is still in play, even if we get a little shake and bake this morning. Remember, this 106.47 is weekly support and 115.82 is monthly. We've used this really, really well, right? Bullish above, and then of course it's bearish below, and then it's bullish above, and then it's bearish, wicked bearish below. But I have to show you something very important. Remember that gap fill? 116.71, it has filled the gap. So we get back above 116.71, this thing is going to be strong into 125 and change. This morning, we've got some digestion right here, but I wouldn't be surprised even if this comes back down to see the yellow line? That's called the 3-day. Let's see what that 3-day is. Let's call it 114. I would not be surprised if Nvidia on a chase, if you guys are still doing this 118, 122 move, then this is going to digest, but it's not going to break 114. That's my baseline bet, is this will, if this is still in play the way I think it is, it'll come down here to pivot, come down here to that 3-day. It won't fall apart. It'll base and move higher into that 121, 122. And then we'll really get to see what it's made of. Already 119 on its way to that 122. XLK will follow these. Look how it has gone sideways. big picture, Nvidia, how it has a relationship with that 115.82. Is that amazing? So now take it on a weekly and just use that as your baseline bet. We get back above 115.82, it's moving higher. We got 125.52, that is going to hit. You know this. I have a thesis here that hasn't disappointed so far. This is from September 11th. Nvidia had a price target. It was 106. It was a really, really strong day. And I wrote a market thoughts called The Market That Nvidia Made, because its advance that morning from a Jensen CNBC interview, basically on Blackwell, extraordinary demand, the stock turned, went higher and led the entire market. And on that day was very telling. Not only did it it was the biggest advancer, but it made up 55%, right, of the movement of the market. So it was a really, really big tell that strength was on its way. Anyway, we hit that 25 area, 27 area, then we pulled back, and then we have since then, I forget what the level was it pulled back to that I said it had to stay above. When it was 106, it was moving higher. I said we needed to stay above 114. We moved into that 127 area, came back down. I said it needed to stay above 116. And then, so this is the day that Nvidia made, okay? And then we moved higher into that trend line perfectly. And then we pulled back, but we held the 116. And then I gave a price target of 136. So far that's working. And you can see the advance. This is the second. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's bid pre-market. So we've had 5 days of strength in Nvidia. That has corresponded pretty well with the rest of the stuff that I talked about, meaning bonds are coming back. That was pre-market September 18th. And then all the bond proxies, XLP, XLV, et cetera, et cetera. XLU was the one resistant party. Anyway, it is very much bond proxies and bonds came down. They haven't perfectly based yet to turn higher, so it's way early, but they definitely came down to target, which is exactly what I wanted to see first. Now they have to base before we can kind of bid them back up. And I don't think it's going to happen right away because the sector rotation that is in place is growth. So we already hit my 56.58 price target, 57.50, which was for September 30th. And then I still have 58.20 and 60.10. So we've had no dip in the market for October. And in large part, we've also had, as I mentioned, QE last week, 225 billion under the surface with RRP and TGA. So that helped while the market was very unsteady ahead of new headline for oil moving higher, yields moving higher, and Middle East conflict. So this support also that I gave in the Qs, 465. Anyway, this is all the stuff that I've posted since September 11th, again on the 18th, and just thought it was worth going over again because Nvidia is approaching its price target of that 136. And here's my thing. I still think that this is in play. Semis, great. It's moved really well, $30 from that September call. And now that we're in October, 1 month later, I still see 270 and 272 and change in play. And Nvidia looks very much like it could be headed up into this 150 area. And I found a level yesterday, but I have to find it again. Obviously, the high was 140. If you recall, during this big advance, I threw a fib up here and I said it wouldn't surprise me if it stops at this 138. And man, that really, 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 really worked. It actually hit an intraday high of this 140.76. We caught that intraday because it also kind of rolled over perfectly above and then below it. Anyway, long story short, intraday was a fabulous short. It was a fabulous long into that fib target, and it has been really predictable. Remember, I had this pullback to 98, 96 area, and it overshot on August 5th. Went all the way down to 90, but the point is that's still really solid support. Anyway, the point is this has been technically pretty predictable. It's been pretty good. So now that it is above this trend line and it is 5 days of strength, I expect some weakness into the end of the week. It probably stays here. Maybe next week we even come back down and test this 125, but I don't think it's going to break the 125. So remember when we started up here, I was like, don't let it come down below the 114 area. Don't let it fall below the 116 area. Well, now it's don't let it fall below the, let's call it 120, 125 area. So I think Nvidia is going to stay supported above the 125. Now, 5-bar rule, you know how I am. I think it's going to digest maybe into Friday, but definitely. And by the way, I still have 136 in my price target. I'm just saying, after we hit this, I really think this is going to digest back down to about 130. Maybe next week we go down to 125, but I don't think it's going to take out 125 in the next few weeks. Big picture, I think this is going to head up to about 150. So yesterday, in talking with Hans about his calls are cheap, I structured a finance call spread, which is basically taking this kind of trend line that we've got going on right here, which is to say that I don't think it's going to come back down below this 100-day, which is 113. Looked at the 115 puts, okay? And then the upside, if I'm right and this thing is going to move higher into that 145, 150 area, then I like that play. So anyway, there was a 115 puts sold to finance 135 by 148 call spread for practically scratch. So translation, I still expect first tag you're at that 136 and then it's going to digest. I do not want it to fall below 125 in the next 2 weeks. I do not think that this is going to be weak, even if we get some pullback, meaning into the end of the year. We have to get through the election and all that jazz. But yeah, I can definitely see this heading up to 150. But I don't want to, I like the call spread that I picked, selling the 115 puts and only getting that call spread with the 148 at the top, because it wouldn't surprise me if they also sell that off violently before it gets to the psychological 150. So that's Nvidia playbook for now, and overarching, I am about semis. I still think that semis are going to move higher, and specifically 270 by year end. So we might get a little bit of shake and bake into Friday. I think we could get some drama next week.
Join Club to trade with Samantha. Scan this QR code or click the link in the description. Subscribe to LaDuc Trading YouTube channel for more live trading room recap videos and other content.